and welcome to Eye on South Asia. I'm Bhavna Vanan.
And I'm Sanjiv Pandya.
Every week, we'll go over the latest stories and happenings in the South Asian community. Sanjiv, let's start off our top stories in Washington. President Obama is back again, and he is talking about his policies for immigration reform.
Which was actually, I think, one of the most highlighted issues talked about during his campaign. Because apparently in the last election he also promised immigration reform, and he didn't do it that much. That's why mainly Latino activists kind of got upset with Barack Obama. And this time it's like he really assured Latino activists and other communities that he will definitely look into immigration reform, and that's what the story is all about.
Right.
It will be announced soon. I think next week he's going to make an official announcement.
Yeah, since about 71% of the Hispanic population voted for him in November, he's definitely going to have to address this issue this time. And as he's announcing his plans in the coming weeks, now a group of 8 bipartisan U.S. senators have already kind of put together a plan of their own. They've proposed their own plan, which will give about 11 million undocumented immigrants a provisional status to live and work in America. And they want to also crack down on hiring undocumented workers and those sorts of things.
And out of 11 million, 200,000 are Indians.
Yes. And
Indians actually account for the 6th largest illegal immigrants in this country.
That's way more than I would have thought, Indian Americans are also the fastest growing illegal immigrant group in the U.S. since the year 2000.
That's true. That's true.
So this is significant because, with the exception of several Latin American countries, India is one of the only Asian countries which has such a fast-growing illegal immigrant population.
What this is that, the government would allow these illegal immigrants a chance to apply for a citizenship. They will get a green card as long as they don't have a criminal record, and they would no longer be deported. They would no longer be harassed. They would be allowed to stay here and work.
Yes.
And that is the policy they are coming out with. And a White House spokesperson said in a statement that the president welcomed the senator's framework, and it is absolutely a big deal, and it will be accepted by everybody.
Right, and speaking of green card, the Senate is also extending this proposal to attract some of the best and brightest talent from all over the world to keep the future innovators contributing to the U.S. economy. So the high-skilled portion of their plan actually promises green cards to anyone who completes a postgraduate degree, like a master's or PhD.
In science, technology, engineering, and the mathematics.
Yes, they're called the STEM fields.
That's right.
So it's great news for Indian students who typically come to the U.S. in large numbers to study in these fields. And of course, this bill has to go through the Senate, be formed by, let's say, like March, and go through the House and everything.
This bill will also be passed. And the other one we just talked about, that's actually good news for many, Indians, I think, living in this area illegally, that now they will get a chance to apply for a green card and be legal.
Exactly. But, that's great news for all immigrants in general. All right, on that good note, the Federal Reserve Chairman, Ben Bernanke.
For a change, we have him in the news, huh?
Yeah. We haven't heard much from him.
Exactly.
So he's talked very positively about emerging markets in India and China. So there's been a lot of talk about the economies kind of going downward in these two countries. And he's saying that they're actually going through a remarkable transformation. That's how he puts it. Despite a slowdown in the economy and their growth, he says it's actually, lifting millions of people out of poverty as they steadily grow and transform their economies. He's saying one of the reasons for the economic slowdown in some of the Asian countries like China is because of their efforts to kind of create sustainable, stable economies, kind of work from the ground up and build their infrastructure and turn around the way they handle exports and imports. But I'm not really sure if I agree that's the primary reason why India's economy is kind of taking a downturn and a slower rate.
But anyway, at least the Fed chairman is acknowledging this, economy issue in India and China, and that shows that how important this country's economy for U.S. government is.
Yeah.
because a lot actually relies on U.S. government or U.S. economy on India and China's growth also.
Right, and he's not only optimistic about Asian economies, he's also fairly optimistic about the European economies as well. He's saying that they're making modest growth.
They're working very hard to develop a banking union and strengthening their economy.
Absolutely. And, speaking of banking and financial markets, the former U.S. Treasury official and management executive for an investment firm, his name is Mr. Neil Kashkari.
Actually, it's been a long time since we heard of him. When I read his name, I'm like, this name sounds familiar, because he was involved in one of the most important packages that I think government issued, I would say, in our lifetime. Right. It's a TARP, Trouble Asset Relief Package, right? For this corporations and businesses and everybody. I think it was a $700 billion package.
The bailout, during the financial crisis.
The financial crisis.
Exactly.
And I think that's when President Bush was outgoing, President Obama was coming in. So this gentleman, Neil Kashkari, was a part of that. And now he is actually giving up, his job and his position in investing, I think, in investment firm. That's where he works.
Right. He came from an investment firm. He's also been in Goldman Sachs as a banker, and now he's expressed interest in entering public service, running for office. He's been giving several interviews talking about, how he wants to serve, and he's launched his own biography. A website with his biography and accomplishments, and pretty much everything that the public would want to know if he's running for office.
He's actually seeking a public office in California as a Republican, but he's saying that I'm just not a regular Republican. I come from immigrant family, and I have seen struggle. I've been part of the struggle because my family has struggled, and I think what he wants to do, that he wants to try to make a difference for this immigrant communities once he's elected as a Republican in California. But he's basically giving out all these projects and jobs, and he's going to really seriously focus on his public office run.
Right. Actually, his statement that he made, he says that he came from a modest upbringing, and he's pretty much optimistic about the future and those sorts of things. It really sounds like the story of America and the American dream, and this really kind of makes you wonder if this is a new voice for the Republican Party. Correct. Where, we have Bobby Jindal also kind of modifying and changing that voice in recent times. And
continuing with that American dream, and also, trying to do something in their life, trying to achieve whatever it is. I think our next story highlights that point also. Rajat Gupta is in the news again. And he's asking for a new trial. He's asking for a new trial and a reversal of conviction, because he says that there were, in the old trial, there were seriously evidentiary errors.
Yeah, he actually said that the district judge made serious errors and really just tipped the scales in his case. He said that the lawyers, in the brief that he gave out to the jury, said they really didn't get to hear Gupta's defense story at all.
I think Gupta's defense lawyer, I think Waxman, that's his name, that he said that Gupta was denied the opportunity to present the best defense for himself, and that's why they're actually, telling the court now to start a new trial and totally reverse the old trial of conviction where he was convicted for tipping his friend or business partner Raja Ratnam while he was, chairman at Goldman Sachs.
Right, and last October, of course, Gupta was sentenced to 2 years in prison originally, but last month the judge granted his request to remain free on bail while he fights his conviction. So now he's just saying, let's just start all over again. That should be interesting. I mean, as to, if the district judge is going to grant this new case.
Again, Rajat Gupta was convicted of passing confidential boardroom information about Goldman Sachs to his friend and business partner while he was actually a board member for Goldman Sachs, and that's why that he got convicted. And I think he was convicted for about 2 years or more than that, 2 to 4 years, something like that.
Right. Exactly. And one of the points where he was making in his brief was that some of the wiretapping that had occurred was actually from Rajaratnam and not Gupta.
Not Gupta,
so
right.
there are several like hearsay statements that were used to convict Gupta when he says that's just simply not fair. And so that's why he wants a retrial. And moving on, we have a very interesting business story here. It's actually, this time it's not.
It's a business story?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not this time about stuffy old men. It's about a 9-year-old, actually. His name is Pranav Kalyan, and he's the world's youngest Microsoft certified technology specialist in ASP.NET.
And how old is he?
9 years old.
And how can that be? How can that be possible?
Well, I'll tell you how he started. He was operating computers from the time he was 2 years old.
Okay.
And then by 5-year-old, he was learning programming languages like HTML, JavaScript, and C#.
So instead of taking part in a national spelling bee competition or some kind of math or science competition, this little genius, little prodigy, or maybe the ninth wonder of the world, who knows, decided to be a Microsoft certified technologist?
Exactly.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. He's really into computers, and just imagine being able to learn programming languages at the age of 5. I mean, I need tutorials from this kid.
If he can do that at this age of 9, I don't know what's he going to do at the age of 30, 40, 50.
Right.
Maybe.
Well, it's interesting just to hear some of his dreams here. So he had studied for 2 years the Microsoft certification program, and his goal is basically to build applications and video games because, you know, just like any normal kid, he likes video games.
Right.
But instead of regular kids who just want to play cricket and, you know, the sport in general, he actually wants to build a robot that's going to play cricket with him and his friends.
Well, it's good
that's
to know.
Quite ambitious.
It's good to know that he follows cricket at the age of 9 and living in California.
Right. Yeah, his family lives in Agoura Hills, California, and it turns out this kid would finish all of his assignments even in the first grade, and his parents would struggle to keep him challenged because, you know, it's a challenge just to keep this kid challenged.
And the kid's name is Pranav Kalyan.
Exactly. So Pranav is now preparing for the National Math Bee in April.
Right.
And so, you know, instead of the spelling bee, like you said, he's onto the math bee at 9 years old in the 4th grade.
All the best to Pranav Kalyan.
Yes. Congratulations to Pranav. All right. So speaking of innovation and new ideas, there's something very interesting happening with Hindu, Sikh, and Jain temples in North America.
Okay.
So they are going green. And so we have Dr. Pankaj Jain, an assistant professor of philosophy, religion, and anthropology at the University of North Texas. He's working with the HASC to reduce the carbon footprint that these different temples leave behind when they're just, you know, performing their rituals, you know, the regular operations and stuff. Now he's working on things like recycling, composting food waste, and reducing...
That is going to be so interesting. Our temples are going to be eco-friendly now.
Of course,
and,
yeah.
And they're going to go green, everything green.
And listen to this.
Environmental friendly.
He's actually proposing these temples having their own gardens where they grow their own fruits and vegetables and flowers that they use only for the temple, so that these things can, you know, kind of be reused and that sort of thing. So they're also looking at performing rituals in more eco-friendly ways.
Oh, that will be the day. That will be
because
the day.
You know, as we know, there's a lot of like things wasted, you know, food wasted also.
Exactly.
So that would be very interesting to see what comes out of that. Sure. And the most green temple that he says in the U.S. is the Baptist Temple in California, which recently opened.
Yeah, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago in our show.
Exactly.
And that is the most green temple. It's the most eco-friendly temple.
Absolutely, because they use solar energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
We talked about it.
Yeah, they're a great model for the future.
Nice. Okay.
All right.
Good.
So we're going to take a short break, and we'll come right back after the break with some community news.